Severe weather can strike at any time, and you can take steps now to help keep you and your family safe. The Storm Track 3 team looks back at the biggest local impacts over the last century. We've got you covered on how to be ready for the worst. Project Tornado starts right now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Chief Meteorologist Nick Housen. It's known as the most powerful weather on the planet, changing landscapes and changing lives in the blink of an eye.
A tornado is defined as a violently rotating column of air. It extends from the base of a thunderstorm to the ground, and even those on the weaker side can uproot trees and destroy buildings.
The strongest tornadoes have some of the highest wind speeds on Earth, with winds reaching 180 miles per hour, snapping trees like toothpicks and flattening homes in the blink of an eye.
We may think of spring as a typical severe weather season, but tornadoes can occur at any time of the year. Some of the strongest tornadoes we've seen in our region have occurred in the colder months, often when the sun goes down.
Nighttime tornadoes are more than twice as likely to be deadly, but they only make up about 25% of all tornadoes. However, about 40% of tornado-related deaths occur during nocturnal events. Now, imagine a large destructive tornado occurring just before sunrise during the winter. It's a nightmare scenario that played out 10 years ago in Harrisburg.
February 29th, 2012. It's the leap day that many in Saline and Gallatin counties will never forget.
Oh, he looked like a bomb went off.
Just like it was in Joplin, just like it was everywhere, just shock.
You go down Barnett Street and it's just totally wiped out pretty much. And then you come down here and it's just, everything's just gone.
Just before 5 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, Doug Cottom and his wife Stacy woke to hail hitting their bedroom window. Then the tornado warning coming over their cell phones.
We grabbed our dog and made our way to the bathroom. She laid down in the bathtub, and then almost at the same time, I started to sit down on the edge of the bathtub, and we heard what sounded like a jet engine.
That sound was the tornado bearing down on the Cottom's duplex.
We started to hear the nails being pulled out of our home, basically like you use a hammer and pull nails out of a board.
Moving at more than 60 miles per hour and winds up to 180 miles per hour, the tornado tore through the southeast side of Harrisburg, destroying everything in its path.
We were literally taken across the street over the other houses out into a field on the other side of the street. And somehow survived it.
Many of their neighbors, not so lucky. In total, 8 people lost their lives that morning, 7 of them living in the duplexes neighboring the Cottoms.
We knew those people real well. They were our next door neighbors. In fact, the one gal was connected to us in that duplex. So that was, without question, that was the toughest part.
It's been 10 years now, and the area that was left mangled by the tornado looks much different. And those who led the recovery and rebuild have had time to reflect.
After all these years, the big thing that sticks out to me is how we came together. You know, how, not only this community within itself, but the neighboring communities across the state, across the Midwest.
Eric Gregg was the Harrisburg mayor back in 2012 and had to separate emotion, knowing many of those who lost everything, to become the leader his community needed.
I think about the words of encouragement from the families that lost the most, from the families that lost loved ones, and how they kind of pushed us to be the best that we could be.
Decisions that allowed people to get the help they needed. Despite FEMA denying federal assistance to Harrisburg, the community pushed through.
We will move forward. We're going to get up and we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to do it in honor of everything that's happened. Those we lost, the families, everybody that lost everything they owned. We're going to stand up and we're going to keep moving forward.
After more than a month in the hospital, Doug Cottom was finally released to begin picking up the pieces and reflecting on the experience.
We had what we later were told was survivor's remorse. We couldn't understand how 4 people on our left and 3 people on our right had lost their lives, and somehow we survived.
Today, they live in a rebuilt duplex in exactly the same spot. Doug says it was something his wife insisted to beat the tornado.
A humorous side, we kind of like our chances now of where we live of not being hit again. I don't know if that means anything or not, but the chances of another tornado coming right through there, right on top of us, are, I would think, pretty remote.
And he says the tornado has made them more aware of what's really important in life. They are so thankful to be alive that none of the rest mattered.
Surviving an EF4 tornado can be difficult, even if you receive the warning and head to an interior room on your lowest floor.
That's right. The Cottoms survived the Harrisburg tornado by seeking shelter in a bathroom. But how a building is constructed can play a major role in whether or not it can stand in winds of up to 200 miles per hour. When the warning goes off, this is the time to seek shelter.
The basic safety rule is to get to the lowest part of a building and put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. It's just trying to protect yourself from that flying and falling debris, which does the majority of the injuries and fatalities.
Even in the strongest tornadoes, that's sometimes not enough. As Graves County Emergency Management Director Tracy Warner saw firsthand.
Unfortunately, the way the tornado came through Mayfield, a lot of homes were completely flattened.
Wind so strong it drove pieces of siding into trees. Tim Marshall is a meteorologist and a forensic engineer. He is called in to help the National Weather Service assess the damage in the strongest hurricanes and tornadoes. He was in Mayfield days following the deadly tornado in December.
We're taking a closer look now at how buildings are built. And we're finding out that, there's a lot of flaws in some of these construction. We call them fatal flaws, where it actually fails. And we're finding that it doesn't take a 200 or even a 300 mile an hour wind to knock down a house.
Marshall looks at the finer details, to when a building was built and to how it was constructed.
If you go back and look at the way the building codes have been, and being in a rural area, the contractors have to basically follow the minimum. That would be around a 90 mile per hour, 3-second gust equivalent. So that's not very much, and this tornado had wind speeds of up to 190 miles an hour.
Wood-framed homes that are built on concrete or crawl spaces are often attached poorly, or not at all. Other buildings, made of brick, like this old church, may have been safe on one side, but not the other.
There was a church that had two kind of stairways on either side. And one was completely filled with 10 feet of brick masonry. Certainly would not have been a good place to be. But the other one on the other side was fine.
To survive such a strong tornado, it requires being underground or in a storm shelter. But buildings built stronger can go a long way.
Tornadoes are going to be around, and we just have to deal with that. Can we build better for them? Yes, we can. But don't leave it up to the building code. You'll have to take matters into your own hands and build a better building if you want to.
Marshall, along with Warner, hope to see Mayfield rebuilt and constructed better, and hopes that more plans are ahead of time in case a disaster strikes again.
You don't have a plan, you need to come up with one, because it could save your life.
Coming up next, the Storm Track 3 team takes you back in time to look at the deadliest tornado ever in the United States, and we explain how it compares to a more recent tornado disaster in our region.